Hi there, it's me, Jen. Welcome to Money School. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for buying my first digital product. I've really enjoyed making this for you, and I hope that you like it as much as I do. Just to get started, I want to clarify what I am and what I am not. I am a personal finance enthusiast, and I am really excited about investing in the stock market. I am not a stockbroker or a financial expert or a financial advisor. I'm not licensed to do any of those things, and I cannot give you advice. So the things I will be sharing here are some basic education. Please don't misconstrue it as advice. I cannot give you advice. I'm going to share things that have worked for me. They might work for you, but there's no guarantees in investing for sure. So please keep that in mind as we go along, and always do your own research. So I tell people, gather information from as many credible sources as you possibly can. Do your research, compare things to each other, figure out what is right for you. Because when it comes to money, I think that one size never fits all, right? So you gotta see what's right for you and proceed accordingly. So keep that in mind. Okay, so how to proceed with this course. I've made a bunch of videos in pretty bite-sized chunks. My goal is to not have anything be too long and drawn out. So there are 7 main parts of this course. And then the last part is all about investing. And the first time I made the recording, it was really long and I was afraid that that would be information overload. So I broke that last module down into 7 little mini videos. So there's a bunch of little parts. And before we get started on this, I just want to clarify that I would love for you to pause between each part, download the information, really think about it, and check out my budgeting tool, which is just a Google workbook, and you can make a copy of it. It has a bunch of different tabs on it, but there's one tab there that's called Money Makeover Checklist. And as you're going through the different parts of the course, there are action steps associated with each thing. So ideally, you watch the videos and then you do the action steps that are on that checklist before you move along. And then you would be an A+ student, and I would give you a sticker, okay? So what you'll also find in that budgeting tool is a budget template. I didn't want anyone to have to start from scratch. If you have a budget spreadsheet you love, by all means use it. But I think it can be kind of intimidating to build one from scratch. So I built one for you that you can use. So download this, I keep saying download, grab a copy of my Google Sheet called Budget Tool before we get started, and that will help you follow through on the action steps as we move along. Okay, great. So just to give you a little context about me, I grew up with a mom who was a banker. She still is actually, and my dad was a stockbroker for a long time. And despite having parents in the financial industry, we did not talk about personal finance and personal money management at home. It was never a conversation at our dinner table, and I definitely didn't learn about it at school. So by the time I got to college and I was offered a high interest credit card with a huge line of credit, I gladly accepted and bought clothes and went out to eat and bought jewelry and went on trips and did a bunch of things that I couldn't afford at all because I didn't know any better. So by the time I was 30-ish, I had about $32,000 in credit card debt and absolutely no idea how I was going to pay that off. Over the course of the last 10 years, I've managed to turn that around. I've paid off all my debt, and my husband and I are really wild about saving and investing, and we are on pace to retire in about 7 years. When I say retire, I don't mean not work. I just mean having the option to not work if we don't want to. So anyway, we're working hard at that. I'm really passionate as I learn different avenues to get there, and the stock market is a huge piece of that for me. So I love sharing this information with other people, and that's why I'm here today. So here is the agenda. We're going to talk about these 5 main concepts that are kind of the pillars of personal finance, which are debt, budgeting, spending, saving, and investing. But before we get started on the meat of the money topics, I wanted to address 2 things that I think are really important. One I call laying your foundation, and the other one is just the concept of interest. And both of these concepts will be kind of a recurring theme throughout the rest of the module. So I want to talk about those things first. So laying your foundation. Let me give you a short story to explain what I mean about this. When I was planning my wedding about 8 years ago, my husband and I were totally overwhelmed by all the things we were going to have to spend money on. And we got advice from everyone. But this woman that I worked with gave me this really wise piece of advice that I loved and I used, and I still use it all the time for other financial decisions. We were talking about the wedding, of course, and she said, decide the three most important things to you and get whatever you want and be frugal about everything else. And that's exactly what we did for our wedding. It worked out really great. We didn't mind being frugal on a bunch of things because we were getting exactly what we wanted on the things that we agreed were the most important to us. So I think that that really smart advice goes a long way with financial planning. So before we get started, I want you to think about your top three priorities in your life. And when I say in your life, that feels kind of broad. I'm talking about things that you want to be really intentional about directing your resources towards, which is your time and your money. So the goal here is to identify your top three priorities. That is the action step for this module. It sounds a little easier than it is because the goal is to get to just three. So if you're having a hard time doing this, I know I certainly did, just make a list of everything that you think is your top priority. If you have a partner, work with your partner on this, and then just kind of go through a process of elimination. To give you a sense of guidance, my top three priorities that I've identified are my health, my family, and traveling. My husband and I are really passionate about traveling. So if that gives you any, I mean, your priorities can be whatever you want. The only last tip I would say is make sure they're the things that are really important to you, not what you think your priorities should be or what your family thinks your priorities should be. Really make them what is truly important to you, because we're going to build your budget and your planning and your kind of path all around these things that you identify that are your priorities. So be honest with yourself. Don't make it a should list. Make it like what you really care about, and identify your top three priorities. And I will see you in the next part. We're going to talk about interests. Okay, cool. See you soon.